Well, hi, folks. Welcome back to another edition of the Bill Crane Report with my friend Dwayne Weiss and I. And we're going to pick right up on our list of concerns we have for the country and get right back into the swing of things
That's one
on
thing,
talking about them.
You sharp-eyed people, we do change our clothes. You don't think that we just we're home, come back, and wore the same thing. We've been here.
Yeah.
We don't want you to think. Well, unlike Jeopardy, where they tape 8 or 10 programs in a row, they bring different shirts and stuff to change.
So the secret is out. We're doing 2 shows back to back. I'm sure they figured it out.
They used to accuse me, don't you ever change? You 1 week and then you got the same shirt on the next week.
Do you folks watch the Catholic Mass
Monica
on
does.
Sunday mornings? Okay.
Yeah.
From Notre Dame?
Yeah, that's what
And
she
there's a
did.
guy that
I'm
leads
usually reading
in.
the paper.
Yeah. There's a guy that leads into it and says, you're watching Catholic television and you're about to watch the Mass from Notre Dame, from Our Lady of something Basilica. And that's a great thing. And I said to my wife, I said, "Did you ever notice something?" She says, "What?" I said, "That guy that pitches the lead in every week, he wears the same shirt and necktie every single week."
Yeah.
And she goes like, she says, "You're an idiot."
You idiot, I get that too. That's taped.
Ah,
I do that sometimes just to play the
yeah, I know.
dumb.
Some of it comes naturally to me.
No, it's me too. It comes naturally to me too, but I do that a lot of times just to play, just to
Yeah.
get a reaction.
Get a little something going. I think we left this off by
Antiquated
discussing-
infrastructure.
Yeah, antiquated interest.
Did you know that until recently, the FAA was using old radar computer parts that were so old, some parts of the country still had tubes? If the tube burned out, the only place left was someplace in Poland that still had a few of these tubes.
Vacuum tubes, yeah.
Yeah, this is what you're trusting your life to air traffic controllers using a system. And I think some of them still use the old card system where they take a card here. When it comes into range, they put that card there. They keep moving them down to know which plane is in which position.
You know, it is scary to think about that,
Yeah.
because the air traffic controllers, and I don't know what system they use, but they do a wonderful job.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Unbelievable job.
a horrendous job. I mean, stress-wise, it's just killer.
Yeah, it's a killer. Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised that they're not high on the alcoholism list.
I wouldn't be surprised they are on suicide, though. after
Yeah,
a while,
yeah,
things like that.
I agree. Dentists were high on the suicide list too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I
what
don't know
is?
I don't know.
What's mind bending about yanking a tooth or filling a tooth? Or
Bill, I have
don't
no idea what some of these
yeah,
were.
I know. You wonder about the data, whether some of
Yeah.
these guys fill that stuff out as a joke. But you know, I'm going to start up top here on the list. Well, no, let's deal with what we started with.
All right.
President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. If we had decided to make a list of 200 politicians in Washington, I know who number 199 and number 200 would be, and it's those two.
Yeah.
And what were we faced with on the other side? A loose cannon in the persona of Donald Trump.
and his minions.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
they'll follow him off. It's like lemmings off a cliff.
It's very, very sad. Very sad.
Who was it this past week that was doing a speech someplace in South Carolina? Who's the senator from South Carolina?
Scott,
Nope.
he's one of them, I know.
He's one of the
Oh,
main players.
yeah.
And he said something about getting vaccinated, and they started yelling at him in the audience about, "No, we're not getting vaccinated. No, and that's fake. Stop!" And he had to stop speaking
Yeah.
because he said, "I got vaccinated. We all should
Yeah.
get vaccinated," and they went crazy.
Yeah.
And that
it's maddening.
it is. It's
I mean, with smallpox vaccine,
yeah.
um,
The three of them there were the measles,
measles,
mumps, and
rubella,
Or something like
yeah, polio,
yeah.
AIDS. I mean, and now this vaccine, which, I mean, it looks to be 90 or 95% effective, and now they've got the pill. Now the pill can be given in the hospital, and it cuts deaths by 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, we're making such strides, and how can people say, "I'm not going to do it"?
Yeah.
It's maddening.
Well, I had a relative that died recently from it.
Yeah.
It's not a close. It's a cousin-in-law. I've only met her once, I think, but she was a very strong anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
A poster on Facebook and online. She went to the hospital one day, and 4 days later, she was dead.
You know, I blame social media for, the lion's share of this blame.
Yep.
Because on social media, any nitwit can post and
That's right.
make outrageous claims. And then when you get someone else without a background in the subject reading it and saying, "Well, you know what? I agree with that guy," and accepting this nutcake's ideas as the truth, the absolute truth.
And it's always something else popping up. The ridiculous stuff.
Yeah,
First, what was the last one? Invectamin. I don't remember the name of the drug.
Yeah.
We've used that in the farm, for Christ's sake, for deworming pigs and cattle. You gave it to them to
yeah,
kill worms.
yeah.
And now somebody come up with the idea, well, this will take care of COVID.
Yeah.
Well, good God.
You know, it's. You really wonder what the heck the direction of the country is when the screamers and the yellers on social media overpower
Yeah.
common sense
Common
and
sense.
reason.
And accepted scientific
Yeah.
fact. That's. And then it's not only that that's going to show up, because all these kind of things, but the fact that it's accepted, and accepted by people that you would think would be smarter than to buy into that stupid theory.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
People that you expect a certain group. I can pick some where I came from. I can pick some people I knew like to live in West Virginia, and I'm not picking on any particular country
No.
or area. I can pick for people in Massachusetts
Sure.
that I'd say they would buy into that.
Yep.
But then you meet somebody else that you thought was educated, aware, and everything else. They bought into it. That's what shocks me.
Yeah, that is really shocking. And there's so many claims and counterclaims about the climate. And
Oh yeah, that.
you've got seemingly reasonable people over here and seemingly reasonable people over here. There's no way in hell they're going to agree on what's going on. And then at both sides, if you go further to the fringes, you got the nut bags.
Yeah. Have you noticed, or maybe it's just me, the media has curtailed the use of the term global warming for climate change now?
Yes.
Because global warming, and I know that climate is not an immediate time thing. It's a long time. It's like geological time. We're not talking years. We're talking thousands of years to make a comparison. But they was global warming, and all of a sudden, polar vortexes showed up, freezing our butts off. And again this year, the long-range forecast for this winter, colder than normal, heavier snow than normal, howling winds and nasty. That's not global warming, so now they switched to climate change.
Well, you know, I can attest to climate change.
Oh, yeah.
And I can, in my own mind, I know I am correct. When I was 8 or 9 years old, my grandfather showed me how to catch muskrats with traps.
Yeah, you were a trapper.
Yeah. My brother and I would go down back, Charlie Ray's swamp, set out a few muskrat traps down there. And the season started on November 1st.
Mhm.
Now, when I was young, I can remember November 1st and going out and setting traps. And I trapped, by the way, since the time I was 8 and 9 until I was in my 60s. 60s. So every single year I trap. And I can tell you this, on November 1st, I have had to bang ice out of the way so I could set my traps. Number 2, I have had 4 inches of snow on opening morning of trapping season. And I can also remember the temperature being much lower. And as I grew older, the trapping season moderated. The temperatures moderated. Now, I had, towards the end, I was walking around in shirt sleeves or just a sweatshirt during trapping season and being perfectly comfortable. So I know that November has changed.
Oh, absolutely.
What I would suggest is that it changed like this. That's the month of November. It went over here. So that what I experienced on November 1 is now what we experience around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And the entire bracket moved.
Yeah. But
And as a result, in some cases, our spring has come later.
Later,
but
yeah.
I think
That's
there's been a
right.
compression in there.
Yeah,
But-
we seem
but-
to have colder springs now.
Yeah.
Colder.
Yeah.
But again, when you talk geological time or climate time, you can't look 5 years or your era, my era, our era. You got to go back. What was, Alaska's got oil. Oil came from dense vegetation, dinosaurs, tropical. It's not tropical. It sure didn't come with the ice and snow that they got.
That's right.
But that you go back thousands and thousands of years, and you go here, and if you look at that, there's changes, but it goes from one end goes to the middle. It changes the other way. Alaska, that part became cold. They find dinosaur remains. There's a program called Bone Hunter or something, out in someplace out west where it's dry as a bone. And one time this was lush vegetation where these things lived. That has changed. At one time, the Bonneville Salt Flats, that was an ocean.
Yeah.
Now it's dry desert. These things do change, but they don't change within a
Overnight.
couple of years.
That's
Like,
right.
We would think, we see this on right now, and we think that that's gonna be it. It might be, but it might not be too.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know what? You never know when the change is going to happen to go back the other way. The pendulum,
That's right.
is like this, you know?
Over geological
Yeah.
history, these things have changed.
Yeah.
But I agree that we should not just ignore it.
No, I know.
That's a fool's choice,
Yeah.
is to ignore it. Maybe, there's nothing wrong with reducing the carbon dioxide in the air. And we do put too much stuff into the atmosphere. We put too much stuff in our streams and rivers and lakes. But not as much as we did, but we still do some. But the problem with claiming, doing it, to try to change it, is that we can't do it alone.
No,
We need cooperation.
and we're not going to get it.
from the Chinas of the
It's
world.
not going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's
And
the problem.
India is not going
No,
to happen.
India or
They
China.
can't even feed their population,
they-
let alone
They're interested.
worry about
They're
anything
interested
else.
in making the dollar today.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't care what happens from after that.
Yeah, and the African continent is not sophisticated
No.
at all, so we're not going to get any help there. But so much of the problem is, well, okay, let me back up. One of the really serious problems I see coming downstream is the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have made a bloody mess out of the
Oh,
oceans.
No question about it.
And yet there's still fish out there, and seals, and other forms of life. By the way, I got a news flash in here about jellyfish that's 10 or 11 feet
Feet
wide.
wide, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
over
my
in
God.
Japan. But I'm very fond of haddock and cod
Yeah, so am I.
and clams
Mm-hmm.
and scallops, and I want to see that continue. But if we continue to make a mess out of the ocean, and by the way, another thing too that drives me insane. I love this getting off the subject, sort of, but
So be it.
overfishing.
Yep.
All right. So when I was a kid, I used to go deep sea fishing with Dave Ryder out of Chatham.
Yep.
We'd catch, well, one day we caught like 2,200 pounds of cod and haddock.
Mm-hmm.
6 of us. I just drop line fishing. And now, the last time I talked to Dave, and it was many, many years ago, he said, it's pretty tough to get 100 pounds of fish now.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have fished out certain areas.
Yeah.
Now, so now we say, well, okay. Now, deer hunting season. All right? Now, if the deer kill drops way off, you shorten the season. Or you make it a bucks only season or whatever, but you manage the population.
Yeah.
When we start about George's Bank or Stellwagen or whatever
Grand Banks.
being fished out, then the fishing boats start screaming bloody murder.
Yeah.
This is my life. My father did this. My grandfather did this.
You won't be doing it much longer.
And you can't tell me I can't go out and fish. And you can't arbitrarily cut my take in half and all that. And the politicians roll over.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Bums.
But you know,
Well-
it's
Look, you can't keep, and you say to these people, if you keep fishing, in 3 years you won't be fishing because you won't be able to catch anything.
you know Bill made a comment about the younger catching 2,200 pounds of fish. That's not the problem of why there is lack of fish today.
Right.
The sport fisherman, the line fisherman, has very little effect on fish populations.
Yep.
It's the commercial fishers. And at one time, we only had a 3-mile limit. Can you
Yeah.
imagine 3 miles? I live on the other side of Norfolk.
Yeah.
I live at 3.5 miles. That would have been the international limit.
Yeah.
Anything after that was
And the Russian
game.
trawlers used to come in.
not, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And they not only caught the fish, they took everything. They
Everything.
dragged the bottom. And what they did, they processed, it was called protein processing. They took little fish, big fish, crabs, clams, anything
Lobsters, you
it
name it.
didn't matter. Then when they went by, that was a desert behind them.
Carpet sweeper.
Yeah. And we stuck to that 3-mile limit for so long, and we let them devastate our own fisheries. And that's where the problem came. And even like Stellwagen Bank is now a protected
Yeah.
fishery.
Enclave, yeah.
Yeah, but you still got Grand Bank, the
Yeah.
big one out there. It's about 200 miles out. Excuse me. And then now those Stellwagons pretty much closed for fishing. But the same thing happened with cod. They thought it'd be non-ending, and the whole world come in and just scooped it up.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you're absolutely right. Those big factory ships just scooped everything. And you know, we've polluted the ocean. I mean, countries continue
Oh.
to dump their trash
Everything,
in the
yeah.
ocean. The ocean is full of huge lumps of plastic.
Well, if
I
you-
mean, we've got to think about this and clean the oceans up. I mean, talk about cleaning up the cities. Let's clean up the oceans too,
Yeah.
because you know, fresh water drinking water could become quite a problem
Absolutely.
going forward. Look what's going on out in the West. I mean, they're rationing water now.
That's right.
What's the next step? Well, shutting off for periods of time, I would imagine. But one of the things we may have to turn to is desalinating the ocean.
Seawater.
Ocean water, seawater, yeah. And that's not going to be an easy task.
No, it's not.
It's a cumbersome process, and you just can't.
That's
throw up a
Aruba's
plant
source of drinking water
Yeah.
is desalination. And their water is very expensive, and they don't waste anything. Whether it's gray water and wastewater.
Right.
Gray water is when your washing machine drains out, or you do the dishes in the dishwasher and everything else. That's saved. That's used for watering plants and irrigation and things. The wastewater, of course, has to go to a processing.
Yeah.
But we mix them together here. We don't save our gray water at all. But even again, go back to Aruba. What you said about plastic. If you go to Aruba and you're on the tourist side or the hotel side, I think that's the west and south side. If you go where the ocean side, where the waves and stuff are, where people don't swim because it is rough and it's hard, but it's very pretty. It's very carved out from the rock and stuff. But the amount of plastic is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Some places it looks like snowbanks, and it's just plastic containers and plastic bottles and things that the
Yeah.
ocean has brought in. You know, they periodically go out and pick up tons of it, but
You know, and that brings up another problem. Supposing we said, all right, we're going to have a Marshall Plan to save the oceans. You know, we're going to ask different countries to cooperate here, but we are going to get this plastic, these floating masses of plastic, scooped up and brought somewhere and disposed of. And everybody is going to say the same thing. You're not going to bring it to my country.
not mine.
No, I'm not having anything to do with that. Nope. So what do you do with this crap when you pick it up?
Well, most of it can be used for something,
Yeah.
but the idea is just to do it. That
Well,
the expense of doing it.
we can burn it, Dwayne, but
Now you
guess
got
what
another,
goes up the pipe?
yeah, now
Pollution.
Now you got another problem.
Yeah.
You remember there was a company, I think in the North Shore someplace, that was using milk bottles and soda bottles and stuff, making fabric out of them.
Yeah.
And guy was a real pioneer in this stuff, and he had good. And then the unions closed him down for some reason. He wasn't union, and
The unions are always great.
yeah,
The unions are built to protect their
union.
members.
Exactly.
But at some point in time, they got to be held accountable for the common good too. And
But the
that's a gray area, a hazy
politicians are so afraid of the unions when they're only, what are they, 7% or 10% of the
area. Yeah,
population
they're less than
of,
10%
of the workforce?
population. Yeah.
But you'd think they were 98%.
Oh yeah, you would think that they
totally-
held the hammer that were holding over our heads,
Yep.
but it's not true. But they can get the vote out.
Yeah.
And if you are in a tight race in Boston,
Oh.
and the unions vote bingo, Democrat
Yep.
or Republican or whatever, that candidate's probably going to win.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's no question about it.
And-
They yield disproportionate power.
Yeah, Marty Walsh is
Oh.
living, if he is still living. He was on TV today.
Oh, my God.
Talk about a wooden man.
Oh my God.
Oh my word! But yeah, that's boy.
The-
Let's change the subject to our. Well, let's. We may as well go up to the head of the list here. Immigration. And someone, and I wish I could remember who it was, said, if your country does not have secure borders, you don't have a country.
Well, that's true. There's-
And look at what's going on our southern border.
Yep.
Now, we have been checking people for COVID. When they fly into the country, they hit them in the head with the temperature,
Yep.
or make them take a COVID test or whatever. When they come teaming across the border, our southern border, the catch and release scenario takes place,
Yeah,
and they're released
that's for trout.
into the public
That's right.
without even giving them identity cards.
No,
Dwayne, let me
Just-
ask you a question. And my wife asked me, and I said, honey, I don't know. So, you and I are Border Patrol, and we've got 1,000 people that they have rounded up to cross the border during the night.
we don't have to ride horses, do we?
No.
I don't like riding horses.
Don't want to do that. So we rounded them up,
Yep.
and they take them to this judge, I guess, or whatever it is.
I'm not sure what they do with it.
That's got this process and says, that's it. And they release them. Where do they go? Who takes care of them? All right, so you got these 1,000 people, and they got, each of them got a little plastic bag full of stuff.
Mhm.
Some of them are barefoot, and you say, out the door with you. Where do they sleep? Where do they eat? Where do they live?
That's a good
What do
point.
they do? How do they support themselves?
For a while, we were pushing them back to Mexico
Yeah,
and say, well, wait over there, then we'll call your number, so to speak.
exactly. That's called an orderly way of doing business.
Mexico says, I don't want them either, because most of them are not Mexican.
That's
They're
right.
Ecuadorians
So
and
we had to
Salvadorians.
deal
and
with Mexico when Mexico shut off their southern border.
that's kind of the key. If we could get Mexico to close their border on us.
They would do it. I'm convinced they would do it, Dwayne, if Biden asked them.
Yeah.
But Biden sees them people as votes.
Yeah, exactly.
And-
Well, exactly. That's
And-
been
and-
on for years.
Yeah, yeah. I got something in here in my pile of stuff. I probably couldn't find it now if I had to, but when I do find it, we'll revisit that question.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
you could see as soon as the administration changed, the influx of Latinos from South America, Central America, and others increased tenfold, because they believed that now, well, in fact, they believed that rumor was going that the borders were open.
Yeah.
Just come.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
and
open.
Kamala Harris
Yeah.
said it, and Biden said it.
If they didn't say it direct, they implied
That's
it.
right.
And social media is not just here; it's worldwide.
Of course it is.
And then you got these
www
Coyotes.
World Wide Web.
yeah, then you got these coyotes that live off of these kind of people. They're telling them, "Well, just come on, give me your $200, I'll take you to the border."
4,000.
Or 1,000, yeah, however
Yeah.
much it was. They should be
Yeah. But
dealt with extreme
No.
prejudice.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to say the word,
Yes.
but you know what I mean.
Well, what is scary when you stop and think about it is the border cities, Mexico, are about as lawless as
Oh my
they
God!
get. I mean, murder, dead bodies, murders.
Years ago, you could go to Tijuana.
Yeah, and be
A
safe.
lot of people did. It was a good weekend. Go down to Tijuana, have a good time. You could go to Juarez. Hell, even Acapulco was a big vacation place for a long time. But I know that's not a border, but it was a resort town. But you wouldn't dare go to Juarez or to Tijuana today.
I have a friend who settled, figured out that he could make his retirement dollars last a lot longer by going to Mexico.
We know some
And
people that did that.
He ended up in the mountains, western Mexico, and said it's safe. That was the number one thing. He had to find a place that was safe.
Yeah.
The cities and all that are not safe.
No. Mexico City's even hazardous. That's on the advisory list of the State Department.
Yeah.
And
But here we've got all these cities, lawless cities, on our border.
Yep.
And we've got people teeming across.
that's right.
Gee, suppose there's any murderers or perverts or druggies or drug pushers coming across? We don't know. Because we're not qualifying them.
Yeah,
They
we're
just-
not. But
Welcome to America.
the people that live there for over the years have come across daily. A lot of them work on the
Sure.
one side and live
Oh,
on the
yeah.
other side. So that influx going back and forth is constant. But it's the massive of illegals that have no business coming in here. They're not coming in here to see Aunt Matilda.
No.
Or shopping and going home again. They're just coming here to get into the border, to get across the border. That's a whole different story. And I often wondered how you would ever separate the two.
Well, then that was the point I was making, is when jets come in from Paris
Yeah.
or Istanbul
Oh, yeah.
or whatever, I mean, we check everybody out. And
Uh-huh.
we see if they got a temperature, see if
Right.
they got COVID. And yet, we're just welcoming this whole mass and
That's
saying,
true.
here, go in the country. But is there a social agency that I'm not aware of, or we're not aware of,
I don't think
that
so.
scoops these people and takes them and resettles them and gives them EBT cards and all that stuff?
I don't think so. I think sometimes these certain not agencies, but certain charities encourage them.
So how does the charities handle 1,000 or 1,500 a day?
They don't care. There are certain groups. I'll give you, for example, is Lewiston, Maine.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember they were
Yeah.
coming in and we're
From Somalia.
Yeah, Somalia. And there was a church group, or two or three were
Yep.
sponsors, starting to sponsor them, and when the word got out, and they were just
Ba-boom.
ba-boom. Well, once they got to Lewiston, the church group wasn't supporting them. They were
Right.
just helping them get there.
Yeah,
And then after that, well, you're on your own.
yeah.
In a little town of Lewiston, was a poor old mill town that
Sure.
had boarded up.
They become engulfed.
We don't have any place for people
Yeah.
to stay, eat,
Exactly.
anything. Stop.
So when this 1,000 comes across the border, all right, and they say, okay, go, where do they sleep that night?
They
What
just
do they
just
eat?
disappear into the country is what they do. They never see them again.
But
They're supposed to stay in contact and contact us and let us know where you are.
well, they don't. I mean,
It's
that's
like
a bunch
pouring a
of
bucket of
baloney.
water in the desert and it
But,
just
but
gone.
1,000 people day after
Yeah.
day.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't see how they can disappear into the woodwork. I just don't.
I think you can.
I can see it happening
It's
once.
happening.
Something is happening down
Yeah.
there. Maybe we should ask Kamala Harris. Why don't we send her a letter?
I think if you
Because
looked
she's
at
the czar.
if you looked at places like Houston, San Diego,
Hmm.
L.A.,
How do they get to San Diego or
I have no
Houston
idea.
or Denver or
I have no
whatever?
idea, but they could assimilate into that thing. We never know it.
Some of them could.
The whole area is
What
done.
do they eat in the meantime?
I don't know.
What do they do? Well, I'm sure of healthcare, they just go to a hospital, but how do they know to do it?
They know.
You know?
They're already briefed when they get here.
Wow.
I know there was some of them they got here. They had names and phone numbers of agencies. You call this agency and this person at this agency when you get there.
We must be taxing the social services agencies. They must be at their wits' end.
Oh, they got to be.
Yikes.
It's a conundrum, Mr. Crane.
We have a system for immigration. It's called register, request,
That's right.
get a number, and wait in line while we process your information.
That's right.
Instead, we've become totally lawless on the border, and God help us.
My son's father-in-law is Chinese, and they escaped China during the Cultural Revolution.
The great
Mao
step
Zedong.
forward, or whatever,
Mao
or great
Zedong's-
leap forward,
yeah,
yeah.
And they were landowners, or landlords. They were dead. I mean, if they got,
Mhm.
they were taking them out and shooting
Sure.
them,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
worse.
Yeah, we're taking your property.
Yeah, and then so they fled, and I believe they traveled during the night and hid during the day, and finally made it to Myanmar, which was Burma.
Yep.
And so he actually grew up. He was a teenager when this was happening, because this is like 1961, 62, and then they went from there to the United States. They went someplace else first, I think Thailand or something. Then they made it to here, and he's highly educated. He's got a PhD in chemistry, and but he made it his project to get his and his wife's family and relatives over. But it took him 20 or 30 years,
Yeah.
and hundreds of thousands of dollars
Sure.
in expenses.
Yeah.
But he kept at it and at it and at it. But they always did it through the proper channels.
Right.
And he is very this subject of illegal immigration is a thorn in his side. He just cannot. He said, "We did it the right way. I cannot support these people that go in through the back door."
You're absolutely right. Now, you know, another thing too that drives me a little bit nuts is when these folks come over, And let's say they do things semi-right somehow, and they get a green card, and which is a step towards becoming a citizen. I was always under the impression before you could become a citizen, you have to pass a citizenship test.
You do.
Um,
I think you still do.
and it's based on history,
civics,
civics,
yep, exactly.
our form of government, our form of life, and also be able to be fluent in English. Is that all out the window now?
The English part is out the window.
Yeah, because well, the
I-
receptionist today at the doctor's office, I couldn't understand her.
Oh, my God.
And I said, "Can you please take your mask off? I cannot understand you." And you don't want to be rude. Well, that's not always true with me, but sometimes I'm brusque. But hard to believe. But you don't want to say, for heaven's sakes, is there someone that can speak English
No.
that I can talk to? But, and then they get mad. Thin-skinned people, that's what they are.
Bill, we went through hell with a refrigerator. I thought I didn't think anybody spoke English anymore.
Yep.
You probably know the story. It's pretty good. It's worth repeating. We bought a new refrigerator. We bought a side by side with a freezer on the bottom, and it was an LG, which is it's General Electric in Korea,
Korea.
and they make stuff all over the world.
Big company.
Big company. They make everything from TVs to heavy
Yeah.
equipment, and it was perfect. Everything was nice, and we were impressed with it. And it started clunking, making these clunk, big loud clunks. I mean, not just little clicks, and it clunked. So, called the LG number. I swear to God, we got somebody in Korea.
You probably did.
Could not understand what she said, and how we went around and around and around. I even asked one time, is there somebody else there that can speak a little better English? She said, no, I'm at home. They weren't even in. You were getting.
Oh,
So, anyway, we got around and got this thing going and going and going. She said, well, I'll call you back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So she said, we'll discuss whatever's going on. Meantime, she said, I'll put in a service call. And now that you could get, if you need parts or anything today, you might be in trouble. We only waited 6 weeks at that point for the refrigerator, because we bought it in November, we got it 28th of December. I understand now sometimes there are friends of ours in Weymouth just tried to buy a freezer, and it was 4 to 6 months before they could get it. But anyway, so they call back the next night, and she's telling it, and Monica answers the phone, and Monica can be a little bit impatient. And Monica said, I can't understand you. I can't understand what you're saying. And finally I hear her saying, we don't have an ice maker. I said, what's that argument about an ice maker now? So I went out. I got on the phone. I said, all right, I got on the other phone. I said, what's the problem? She said, the lady, she's trying to explain, you have to turn your ice maker off. We didn't order an ice maker, because everybody, we know, we got hard water. Everybody we know that's got hard water, the ice maker usually lasts about 6 months, and it's kaput because it gets all whatever's in it, calcium, I guess. So we don't have an ice maker. And the woman on the other hand says, yes, you do. Monica said, we don't have an ice maker. She's trying to explain, open up that freezer, look under there, you'll see a switch, turn it off. Monica said, no, we don't have an ice maker. I said, for God's sake, let's at least look. Sure as hell. There's the switch. It's on. We turn it off. End the problem. But we are fighting. We can't understand them half the time. All we hear is ice maker on, ice maker on. No ice maker. We don't have an ice maker. You're to come find out, all of them have ice makers. It's cheaper today because of modular construction just to put the ice maker in and don't put the plumbing in. But in this one, the
true.
ice maker was left on instead of off. And it's clunking because it's trying to make ice, but there's no water, there's no nothing. And if we could have just had somebody say, they all have an ice maker in them. Sometimes they get left out at the factory, and just turn that off and it'll be done. But we went around and around because we could not understand them.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's understandable that in attempting to talk to Korea about a product of theirs, that there's a language problem. But it is impossible for me to believe. Well, it isn't impossible for me to believe. It happens every day. But it's unfathomable that we should have problems communicating in English in this country.
That's right.
I mean, and yet, I know people whose folks and grandparents who have been born in this country still can't speak English.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were all raised as Polish, and they kept on doing it, or the other one other.
And especially when you get in enclaves, you get all the one settlers that came in as immigrants, and they all sit in the same spot.
Chinatown,
Chinatown, perfect example.
example. Yeah,
Yeah, you got these enclaves in Chicago where they're all Polish,
yeah,
and they all speak Polish.
yeah.
The people coming in, why should I learn Polish? Because all my neighbors speak Polish.
Yeah,
The people in the
exactly.
store speaks Polish.
Yeah.
And they never learn. They don't. Well, I don't think they do. They never learn English. There's just no incentive to.
Immigration, we have got to get control of our borders.
Yeah, we do. There's no
And
question about
this
it.
is absolutely a major tragedy. And I'll tell you, I think it's an impeachable offense with what he's done with the border. I mean, we have laws on the books about immigration that he's ignoring. All right. How about homelessness? Would you care to tackle that one?
I don't know what the hell the answer is there. You see, homelessness, I see it as there's different levels in different areas. Living in Norfolk or here, we don't see it. Once in a while there's somebody that's hurting but when you see these, look like homeless villages. Like
Tent cities.
tent cities in
yeah,
California.
Cardboard.
Yeah, and these
homes.
tents and these. I guess there's what they call it, Mass and Cass here in
Yeah,
in Boston.
yeah. That's Mass Avenue, and it's down by Boston Medical Center.
Yeah, somewhere in that.
on
area.
Harrison Ave. Part of it is.
It's a
anyway.
complex problem because I think it's a mixture of causes. I think you got drugs are involved there. You got mental problems of people that are not stable. Then you've got people that are actually down on their luck for whatever reason.
Alcohol,
Alcoholism is another one. You fit that with
lack of
drug.
education,
Yep.
and people that have been abandoned
Yeah.
by their family or by circumstances. And you're right, and you know, one size does not fit all.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is.
You know, is it possible to build enough homeless shelters or enough apartment buildings to house the homeless. Now, that's one question, but the other side of that is, can we force the homeless to go live in them?
No,
No,
they just won't do it.
that's right.
There are people that will, the dead of winter, find some grate with a little steam coming out rather than go to a shelter. They just won't do it.
Yeah.
They want to live where they want to live.
That's right. They're the cowboys.
Yeah.
Riding the range, out in the great outdoors.
As far as building enough apartments or buildings, again, you got that problem where the mentally insane, for lack of a, you can't put them next to a family of little kids.
That's exactly right.
You can't put a hardcore drug dealer next to a heroin addict and mix them in that bunch. They'd steal everything that's there.
Well, and we had problems like that at elderly housing in Norfolk, when they started putting some of these people that got on relief that were alkies, ex-prisoners, druggies, and they were part of the great societal attempt to meld them into the community. We don't want to put them in institutions. We want them in the community where they can prosper.
Yeah,
Well-
that doesn't work.
And we were forced to take some of those people, and because we had vacancies, and put them in with elderly people.
Yeah.
And it was a horrendous problem.
Yeah, I can see that was a horror show.
Yep. Horrible, horrible. Some of those people were horrible people they put in there.
Oh, they pray. I'm sure they prayed on
Oh, yeah,
some of
they
the
did.
seniors.
Yeah. And you go and put grandma
Oh my God.
in senior housing, where she's going to be in with a lot of her friends and senior activities.
Perfect.
And all
It's
that
great.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, but you
But-
mix that other element in there,
that's right.
and it's dangerous.
Senator Kennedy was one of the driving forces behind getting them into the community.
Yeah, mainstreaming.
Yeah.
The-
Uh,
well, that it doesn't work in education either. I'm sorry, but when you start bringing the class level down to the lowest common denominator, all you've done is brought the whole class down. The kid that was the bottom line, he's still there. He hasn't moved. If he does, it's very little.
We had the 1, 2, 3 system, in the 8th grade.
Yeah,
Group 1 were the smartest kids.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Group 2, the regular kids. Group 3, the slows, or problem
yeah, we
learners.
did too. I went to a parochial school. They just called them robins, bluebirds, or bluebirds, robins, and sparrows.
Oh. Well,
I don't know.
so then it was determined, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because they feel icky about themselves. If I'm a 3 and everybody goes, ha 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 ha, you're a 3, you're in the dopey class, because kids can be cruel.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's
So now,
brutal.
so you have to put them all together again. Okay? Well, in that case, the intelligent, the super intelligent, the overachievers, the really smart ones aren't going to learn a bloody thing, because everything has to be reduced to the lowest common denominator.
That's right.
And you got to go
And
slow.
the lowest common denominator can't keep up.
That's right.
He doesn't know what's
Exactly.
going on, or she.
I don't want to carry this bag around any longer, and we only got about 3 minutes left to go.
Is there a Whopper
So-
in there? I see it's a.
Well, there was a Whopper in here.
Oh,
But the kid that did this to me, I would never have working for me.
what now?
Because my Whopper was in here. And that's what he included in the bag with my Whopper.
You have a little ketchup problem there, Mr. Crane?
Salt, 3, 4, 5, 6, and pepper. and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 ketchups, and at least 10 peppers and 4 salts. He just grabs stuff and boom.
Don't care.
Boom.
Don't care.
No.
Don't care.
Uh,
See, otherwise they could accuse you of being a senior citizen and stealing all that stuff. Because seniors have a reputation for going in and helping themselves with that.
you know what? I used to we used to go to a restaurant in Walpole, the Old Country Buffet.
Yeah.
And lunchtime, there was one day when something was good, was that they cooked right, and I enjoyed going there, and we kind of got in the habit when I first retired of going down there. And there was a guy that would come in and he'd
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
fill his pockets with sugar, salt. Anyway, what these ketchups?
No, I know. Seniors have such a bad reputation,
Yeah.
but that's something they all do. They've done that for years. My mother used to go on these senior bus trips across the country and
Yep.
stuff, and they'd laugh about one bill. 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay.
Laugh about wiping out the restaurant with that kind of stuff.
When I got this, I couldn't believe it. I was, what the hell did he do? God. Anyway, well, folks, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed being back with you, and we certainly look forward to our next shows and talking about some more of these issues, and then getting into all kinds of mischief and nonsense.
Yeah.
So,
And we hope that the phone company continues to put in spam, scam, and fraud on their.
yeah,
We're getting that now
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
phone. Yeah,
yeah, about time.
about time. Yeah.
About time.
We'll talk more about that issue.
Yeah. Friends, if there's anything you want us to talk about,
Let us know.
drop us a line.
Right.
And on that note, happy sales to you. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that wasn't it. What the hell or happy trails.
Trails. Yeah.
Yeah, Roy Rogers used to sing that. So, happy trails, folks.
Take care.